Quarantine has even the most iconic brick and mortar stores, TJ Maxx, changing their business model to online. But how do you build a brand online, and particularly with social media, without being glued to your phone all the time? Or worse, being on influencers in the wild Instagram account. You don't want to be there. My next guest is going to guide us through some of the best practices in her platform of choice, Instagram. She's a lifelong entrepreneur, private coach, and sought-after speaker, helping business owners make dollars in real life, not just in double taps. No BS business coach, Instagram spirit guide, queen of hashtags and hacks, Sue B. Zimmerman. Yay!
That has to be the best intro ever. I love it when people get a little creative with what we give as the bio, but I want to tell your listeners, my first job was folding towels at TJ Maxx.
No way. That's hilarious.
Yeah. In high school, that's like the job. I loved working at TJ Maxx. In fact, I loved shopping at TJ Maxx, and there's one right across the street from me here in downtown Boston.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. It was one of the top things that I missed in quarantine, and which was one of those things that, in light of bigger problems and people having more dire consequences to the things happening in the world, you feel guilty about, but there was something very cathartic about walking around the aisles of TJ Maxx and touching things, picking them up and putting them back down again. Because really, that's what we do at TJ Maxx.
Ours here, there's a designer section that's pretty rad. Love it.
Well, now I'll have to go. I'll be like, look, Sue told me. Well, I would love to start our conversation out with a little confession. I think we talked a little bit about how I found you off mic, but so for those that don't know, I found Sue while figuring out how to do highlights on my Instagram account, and my confession is that I was so impressed that you weren't a college kid in your mom's basement going 5 crazy ways to make money on Instagram. You were actually a grown-ass woman with a grown-ass job teaching people how to make real money. And so I was like,
I'm all about making that. Can you drop the F-bomb on this?
Yep.
I'm all about making fucking money. Let's be real. If you're spending hours creating content and in your craft, we all want it to eventually change, make an impact, change the world, and make more income doing what you love. And so I've been that entrepreneur my whole life. But yeah, my daughters, I have 3 daughters who are grown now. They're young adults, and they definitely rolled their eyes at me when I started teaching Instagram.
Well, that's somehow how you know you're legit. If your daughters are not rolling their eyes at you, are you even doing life right? So,
oh, now they're asking me for advice because they all have businesses on Instagram. So it's good.
That is good. So why Instagram over other platforms?
Well, you're talking to someone who is a visual learner and thinker. And so it's wired for my brain. It always has been. I used to teach how to embellish photos on QVC, scrapbooking, no joke, back in the day, over 10 years ago. That was me on QVC teaching people how to literally put threads and beads and cabochons on their photos. So when Instagram came out, and I also had a store on the Cape, always trying to drive traffic, and I was teaching social media when I didn't have my store, so off season. And I was always intrigued with any social platform. And when I saw that my daughters were on Instagram, because you always want to follow the habits of your teenagers, always, I just embraced it, and I learned it, and have really just gone all in on it. And I am that entrepreneur who knows how to seize opportunities before the rest of the world sees them. I used to make the little gibbets for Crocs, that you put in Crocs. So I helped design those. I've had 18 businesses over here. So you're talking to someone who is a visual thinker, learner, and I knew that images get more engagement and people's minds process images so much faster. And so I used it and had great success at my seasonal store on Cape Cod, so much so that I just knew I needed to empower other business owners how to have that same kind of success. So I've dedicated almost a decade of my life to teaching other people who have businesses that really want to grow in an authentic way and attract an audience, a community of people that love your product or your service. And I love what you said about my highlight reel, because my YouTube video has over 380 videos. I mean, you can go binge on Subi all day. And I've learned along the way that micro content builds trust and likability, and it keeps it real. And so for me, I know that teaching one thing on my YouTube video, typically under 5 minutes, is going to give someone a win and make them feel good and make them want to come back for more or have a conversation with me, just like you did. And here I am, right?
Exactly. I truly appreciate that about your YouTube channel, that they are the shorter wins, that I can learn something without feeling overwhelmed. It's not drinking from a fire hydrant. It is an appropriate amount of information for the amount of information my brain can actually take in. And I love how you keep it authentic, which is kind of what I wanted to talk about, because Social Dilemma on Netflix, have you seen it?
I've heard about it, and I watched a little bit of it. I have the whole gist because everyone's telling me I need to watch it. So I haven't legit seen it, but I legit understand what it's about.
It's a little slow. It's a little like after school specialty in some ways, but it's good. And it brings up a point that is not a new point. It just drives home the point because they had all these former social media execs making the point. So I think that's really the difference of it is instead of people brushing it off, they might listen a little bit more. But it brings up the question of how can we build a brand while still seeing other people as humans and not be gross. And so when you talk to business owners about building authenticity, what are some of the ways that you recommend building a brand as a human, a real human?
Yeah, I love this because I don't automate anything on Instagram except I use the feature called Quick Reply. So I know that so much of my audience appreciates how I show up as either the Chanel glam kick-ass speaker or the sweaty hot mess after a workout. And I show all sides of Subi, the mom of twins, the mom of the dog, like not necessarily as content, but they're in my videos, behind me, near me, a part of me. And so you really get to feel connected to me intimately. And I really like the word intimately because I don't mind showing pieces of my life, knowing that I'm helping other people understand what's possible when you pull back the curtain, when you share your bloopers, your mistakes, when you know, if you swear like a sailor, like I do occasionally, then you can, like, that's all part of it. So not holding back any part of your personality, but leaning into all aspects of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the lessons learned along the way. And since I've had so many businesses, I've had so many lessons. So I'm able to infuse a lot of the knowledge and experience from my other businesses into how I show up on Instagram. And because I am midlife, that really gives credibility to a lot of people as yourself, as well as women my age who really are not confident with video, the way they look, the way they sound, their wrinkles, their gray hair, whatever excuse they're throwing at me. And I'm all about, listen, you're not going to build a successful business unless people get to know you and understand you and like you, because that at the end of the day is why people buy, is that they trust you and they believe in you and what you stand for. And so I'm confidently putting myself out there globally. Like I have a global reach, and I do get recognized when I travel now, and it's kind of bizarre. It's kind of awkward for my husband who's not on Instagram, but it's because I show up, and I really show up with a big heart, and I care, and there's no ego behind anything I do.
Mm-hmm. So that would even I love what you said about you. All of you shows up. All the parts of you show up. And I almost think that that's the first mistake that people make when, I'm going to build an online brand. And it's just I did a professional photo shoot version of you or whatever. Yeah. Hair flip. Exactly. But it's when it's all of you. So it's like bring all the sides of you to the brand.
Yeah. And for me, because I used to teach art classes in the basement when my kids were little, I had my first $1 million business selling silkscreen boxer shorts when I was 22. I've had licensing deals with Disney. Like, I have so much to bring to the table from, like I said, my experiences. So I think that whether you're starting out in business or you've been on Instagram for a while and you're just not feeling the love, you're not getting the right followers, you're not making the money, I would like to challenge you to really step into all aspects, the quirkiness, if you have experience from a past job, a past business, or, the storytelling aspect of the app is huge. Mm-hmm. I mean, you really can hit a chord with someone emotionally very quickly when you show up and share in an authentic, real way. And so I do all of that, and I wish more people would.
I do too, because then you feel like it's a great tool and not something that's controlling you. As I started podcasting, I became a part of different groups on Facebook, and that's not my favorite platform. So I usually veer off and go to Instagram to connect with other podcasters that I felt like had a similar vibe, for lack of a better word. And we've become genuine friends. Even though we haven't met in person, I feel like there's genuine connection there.
Yeah, well, I feel the same way. So in addition to my Ready, Set, Graham course, where we have over 2,500 students from 51 countries, I also have a high-end Ready, Set, Graham Pro community, which is much more intimate. And we've coached about 100 students there. And it amazes me how close people get quickly and become friends and support each other, buy from each other, become each other's accountability partner. And then when we do like in-person meetups or we're at conferences, like people just feel so connected because of the way that we build that trust within these micro communities that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the questions that came up about building brands and being authentic, using all of the tools that Instagram offers, the reels, stories, feed, all of it, right? How do you participate in all of the unique and creative ways that you can communicate your brand without being glued to your phone all the time?
Yeah, so I'd love to school your audience a little bit with an analogy that I like to use for Instagram, which is Instagram's basically a village. And there are now 5 neighborhoods. And I call these the Subi neighborhoods. So feed, stories, IGTV, live, and reels. And so you now have 5 places to create content. And you might not be ready to create content in all 5. I personally coach my students to master the feed and show up in the feed, which is the evergreen content, which is the proof to your bio. The promise that you're making in your bio should be supported with your feed content and then moving into stories. So I really coach people to master each neighborhood and not feel like you should be all over the place willy-nilly, just creating because it's what the algorithm is favoring, such as reels. So I obviously have a reel channel, I have an IGTV channel, and I have strategies behind each piece of content that I create. And so it always goes back to who is my ideal client and how can I serve them and what problems am I solving for them. And if the content that I'm creating doesn't match up to what I call, and we've kind of coined our buckets, our digital video content buckets, then we're not posting it just to post it to beat the algorithm. It's always to serve our audience. And so we as a company, I have a team of 12. And I just got off a meeting about our content creation. We use tools like Trello and Slack and Plannable to stay really organized and on top of our content planning. So to your point, it doesn't control our lives. I literally do everything I want in my day, every day. I do not feel stressed and overwhelmed. I feel in control. I know what my responsibilities are on a daily when it comes to showing up, creating content, and sharing. And I think when you have a master plan and you understand your audience, your ideal customer, creating content is so much easier. And I think that people just get so tricked up because they spend way too much time looking and seeing what other people are doing in their niche or their field, and they're comparing and they're not good enough and they're doing this way and I'm doing that way. And you know what? The minute I shut down looking at what other Instagram experts, educators were doing or gurus, the faster my business grew, because people really loved how I was showing up with my true personality and not trying to like keep up with the Joneses, if you will.
Well, if we all keep up with the Joneses, whoever the hell the Joneses are, then we just become one watered down version of whatever that is, and nobody is anybody. If you think about it, if we're all trying to copy each other, basically we all become like mush.
And my goal every day is to stand out in some creative way that has educated, informed someone, became a resource that you're saving my post. That all works with the algorithm, or even make somebody laugh, because can we just clap it up for like making somebody laugh and think that, you know, the humor is always good too.
Oh, right? Absolutely. Yeah. So audience over algorithm. So instead of thinking, how can I feed the machine? Think of who are the people, who am I showing up for today? And that'll keep you less chained to feeling like you always have to.
I always think about that. And because so many people in the world right now are really struggling and looking to make money online, which is a movement in my mind. When I walk around downtown Boston, there's a lot of stores that have closed, restaurants on Newbury Street. Lord & Taylor just closed on Boylston Street. And so I see this movement, this online movement, and I've positioned myself very strategically in a place where pretty much everybody needs to understand how to use Instagram to grow a business, a brand, a movement, a philanthropy. And I feel like I have a big job to do.
Yeah, I feel like you have a big job to do too. I mean, I told you it's the first place that I go when I find either a personality on YouTube, or if I see a brand, an ad, even an actor that I like. Instagram is my favorite platform to stay in touch in a way for that person, because I feel like I have a chance to get to know who they are as a person and what the brand might offer. Can you explain to the audience, you mentioned it, the promise in your profile? I love what that means. And
so let me, so I'm going to hold up this magazine. So the analogy I use is, if your account was a magazine, and I got featured on the cover of this awesome magazine. Okay. So if your account was a magazine, the promise made on the magazine is essentially your bio. So who you are, what you say you do, and your authority behind it. Like, how long have you been doing it, or what makes you the go-to account for that niche? And so if you were to turn the pages of a magazine, i.e. scroll in a feed, does that promise match up? If the content that's promised on the cover is not in the inside of the magazine, most likely you're not going to buy that magazine again. And you're going to say, wait, but you said I was going to read this article, this piece of content, and it's not there. So on Instagram, the same is true. If you're making a promise in your bio, that needs to be supported, not distracted in your feed. And when there's distracting content, it is not somebody's job to figure out what you do. It's your job to make it crystal clear so that they will want to come back again and again and again.
So it's basically like when you open the cover, and then when you open the cover of the magazine and it says content, that the content matches the cover, everything lines up. It's not a confusing array. So what would be an example of a brand? Maybe somebody use an example of one of the clients that you're working with now.
Yeah, so I have a client. She's amazing. She has turned her passion for collecting antiques to literally selling them on Instagram through live auctions. And her feed is a nice mix of the products that she's selling and inspiration of beautiful homes with that kind of same decor, that same style that she sells. And so every post lines up. And if it doesn't, I send her a DM and I'm like, Laura, this, like, an example is actually today. She's like, yay, I hit 4,000 followers. Sometimes you just need to celebrate. And I send her a DM and I'm like, this is all about you. It's not about your customer. Totally fine to share this in your story, but this should not be evergreen in your feed. And she's like, You're right. That's an example. It's like, what is in it for them? I always say that. What is in it for them? And if it's not in it for them and it's all about what's in it for you, like, I don't care that you're on vacation in a beautiful place, unless you're going to be a real estate agent and you're going to talk about something about that place that kind of matches up to something similar to where you sell real estate, or there's a lesson there about the place that you're staying and the amenities in that place, just like the amenities in a beautiful home. There has to be that bridge of from visuals to description, and you can bridge the gap from showing. You can show, like Laura could have showed that she just has 4,000 followers, and I told her to emphasize on what it took to grow that following with your community, and maybe how many customers you've served along the way that are happy. Like, there's a lesson there. So I always like, no one cares that you're making money. No one cares that you're successful. All they care about is themselves and what they need to do to move their life forward. Right?
Right. Well, that connects back to thinking about the audience over the algorithm, because you think, like, how does this serve my audience? So that makes perfect sense. I have a podcaster, a friend of mine, who calls likes fool's gold. He says our brain wants them, but they don't mean anything. How can we remind ourselves that likes don't pay the bills when they're such a nice dopamine hit to the brain? Is there a metric that matters more?
Oh, totally. So I have 116, yay me. This week we gained 1,000 new followers on Instagram, and I have so many lurkers, lurkers that aren't likers, lurkers that just watch and look. And so I think the biggest measurement above and beyond everything else is the comment thread, the conversation below the content from an audience that really appreciates who you are and what you do. And you can easily buy likes. You can easily pay people to quickly comment or buy these services that do this for you. And there is none of that going on for me. So it's all based on real conversations from people. And so that is my biggest measure if an account is being completely authentic. Someone that gets to 4,000 likes, if there's no conversation in the comment thread, I'm not buying it.
Do brands really still buy likes and followers in an age where authenticity is so valued?
I cannot, like, I don't know. It's not like I'm going to call anybody out on this. I'm just saying that that's a big indicator for me, is if there's thousands of likes and there's no conversation. Because people that love businesses and brands, they are part of the conversation. They talk about, what they like and how they're connected, and they engage in real conversation.
Is there ever an instance where a brand should just start over on Instagram?
I get asked this a lot. So a lot of brands, either they paid someone to do something that was totally not kosher and their account suffered for it, meaning they bought a lot of followers, and they then lack a lot of the features. They got banned, or they just don't have features that they really want to have. And they're like, screw it, I'm going to start over because this account isn't giving me all the different neighborhoods or features that Instagram offers that makes it so entertaining and fun to create content. So I've had people tell me that they've started over, and I've seen people kind of announce it. I'm starting a new account because of X. A lot of people want to pay to get to those 10,000 followers because of the swipe up, and then it's all downhill from there if they do.
Yeah, I can think of one example where that has happened. So you have been working with teaching people about Instagram since 2012?
11, actually.
11. And Instagram started in 2010, correct?
Yeah, 10 years, yeah.
Okay, so I'm dying to know, over those years, what are some of the biggest ways you've seen the Instagram change?
Yeah. So Instagram wants you to stay on the app as long as possible and is doing everything possible to make that happen. And obviously adding ads to Instagram has been huge. We have a huge ad budget. I spend $900 a day on ads to bring people into our evergreen sales funnel. Yeah. And so ads perform extremely well for us, both in the feed and in stories. So ads is one of them. And then all of these neighborhoods. And anytime there's an app like Snapchat, Vine, TikTok. Instagram is bringing it in, baby. They are going to master that and bring it in so that you're not spending time on those apps, that you're going to spend more time on Instagram. And I think, if I were to make a prediction, because I do make a lot of predictions with the apps and they usually come true. Like I predicted they'd be adding more textiles. I am predicting that voice recognition, which is actually my husband's industry, voice having transcription will be more prevalent and prominent, not just in an IGTV that they just rolled out, but also in your posts and in your stories, making it more accessible for the hearing impaired. So because transcribing videos is a big time suck, and there's very few apps that do it in an affordable way. So so those are all the changes. I mean, there's so many. I often do every month, I do a recap of updates. And it's like Instagram is just changing the layout of where the buttons are now. Like when I opened up stories like a month ago, they got moved to the side. So I am constantly updating my course, Ready, Set, Gram. They just keep, and they, I love it because it keeps me busy. I always have something new to talk about and teach, right? So from my point of view, I love it. And everyone needs to remember this is free. Instagram's free. So if you're having a little moment that you don't have the music feature in a reel or some other feature, just take a step back and say, you can now basically create a free ad, i.e. reel, now 30 seconds, not just 15. And get major reach if you do it well. And so, being the entrepreneur I am, you have to understand, I used to go around to coffee shops and put little handmade tag, rip the tag to buy my boxer shorts, to buy my t-shirts, market like crazy. And I had sandwich boards in front of my store at the Cape. And I checked into Foursquare. That was a thing back in the day. And now we have this little app called Instagram that is just freaking amazing, where you can literally connect with anybody globally on a video, in the DM, or in a voice message in seconds. Yeah. And that's just crazy in my mind, crazy amazing.
It is crazy amazing. And again, I love how human you keep what you're teaching and how you're guiding people, and just how you as a person, I wasn't surprised by your personality here because I was in touch with it on your Instagram feed and on your YouTube channel. So I appreciate so much what you're doing. And I think part of how we can not have a personal social dilemma or social media dependency is to keep it human and put the audience over the algorithm. And honestly, I feel as a business person, having a resource like you is a great thing to have, because then you don't have to feel overwhelmed, which is part of the whole thing. Is social media overwhelms us, right? All the notifications and the dings.
Yeah, because there's so many places that you can be spending your time. And so I'm all about, where can I get the most bang for my buck, meaning time? And hands down, it's always Instagram. And yes, we have a Facebook page that's great. And YouTube is the engine of my business. YouTube is owned by Google. So you found me there. Lots of people find me there. They either like my Boston accent and they like my personality and they keep following me, or they're like, okay, this is redundant. Every video is kind of scripted with a system that works. And we grow hundreds of new subscribers on YouTube a week as well. And so my business has grown so much, but it comes from all the focused, hard work, attention to detail, and the way that we show up and serve. And so, I'm really proud of the little stake I've made in this place. And the truth is, I will share with you a video I did when I came back from a conference where I declared I was going to be the Instagram expert in the woods with my dog, saying, I'm going to teach Instagram to the world globally. I declared it, I manifested it, and here it is. So when you step into your calling and you believe in yourself and you manifest and you work hard showing up consistently, magic can happen. It takes time. It takes heart. It takes hustle. I'm talking about the good hustle where you prioritize family and health and wellness.
Yes.
And sleep. And you can have fun doing it. I'm all about, if I'm not having fun, I'm not doing it. So that's a big part of my life right now too, is that I really have fun doing it. And I think people feel that in light of things. It's what people need, is a little bit more fun and lightheartedness, right?
I completely agree. I think you nailed it. Well, as we wrap up, tell people where they can find you on Instagram and all the places.
Yeah, so I always like to do a little CTA, call to action, because I'm Sue B and I'm always about the call to actions on Insta. So if you enjoyed this interview, come on over to the Instagram expert. I'm Sue B Zimmerman, and say hi either on a comment thread in my feed or send me a DM and just tell me your biggest aha moment, your biggest takeaway, like the thing that was said that's like music to your ears, so that I can connect a little bit more intimately with you and we can just make this world a more connected, happier place.
Amen. I could not have ended that any more perfect. Thank you, Sue. This was incredible.
You're so welcome.